Now peasants come in all shapes and colors, and a lot got arrested in the past, 'cause the sheriff and his posse be profiling, 'cause we of the lowest social caste. So all I got to say to you flea-bitten, plague-ridden serfs so blindly acquiescent, when an angry mob is forming, what the fuck wilt thou do? Damn, it feels good to be a peasant.
It is August 26, 2017 in the wee hours of the morning. This is the Dissident Peasant Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff, the Dissident Peasant, always pro small folk. On today's show, Mueller Watch. What's that guy been up to? He's been talking to Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, apparently. I'll talk some more about why Mueller watching is done more as a hobby than in the pursuit of justice. Also on today's show, Joe Arpaio has been pardoned from criminal contempt by the President of the United States. That's breaking news. So if you hired some reporters with some crowd-funded money to report on Department of Justice guidelines for pardon applications, you wasted your time. Seb Gorka resigned from the White House. Oh dear, that's sad. That's sad for a certain aspiring impressionist. And to conclude the show, we got some wisdom from Fred Hampton. Everyone, thanks for joining us. This is Jeff, the Dissident Peasant. It's good to be back. I took last week off. I went to visit so the kids, my niece and nephew, actually. They live a couple hours away, so I try to get up there every now and then. And they're great, and they're beautiful, and they're smart. They're doing fine. And so is the whole family. But they're little germ factories, right? So I got really sick for like one day. But I'm still kind of fighting off some congestion. So if I sound weird, that's why. Also, the Peasant Mobile needed a bit of work. Just general life drama. This is a hobby, so I can't always get to it when I want to. But I got a lot I want to talk about that's happened recently. I want to talk about what's happened this week. So if you're listening to this, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you want to check out dissidentpeasant.com, you can do that. You can go there. I should be on SoundCloud now and iTunes as well. I submitted a Stitcher application too. Also upload this to the website and to YouTube. So I'm all the places. If you want to check me out, there is a PayPal link at the website if you want to give me some money. But that's not really what this is about. This is really more about just doing my own thing. A lot of people do independent media and they're bad at it. And a lot of political pundits who write in major newspapers or have shiny cable TV shows, they also suck at it. Not all of them, but most of them. So why not? Why can't I do better? I'm going to do better. That's what this is all about. So, first up on today's show, Joe Arpaio has been pardoned from his criminal contempt of court conviction by the President of the United States. That's the latest news that happened just a few hours ago. Normally, pardons are submitted to the Justice Department, and they're scrutinized by teams and packs. And what's the proper nomenclature for a grouping of lawyers? Is it a gaggle of lawyers? A herd of lawyers? Post a comment on this web zone if you know the answer to this question. But yeah, normally large numbers of lawyers go over these applications before they're submitted. And people wait years to figure out if they can receive a pardon or a clemency from the President of the United States under normal circumstances. But these aren't normal circumstances. It's important to remember that. It's important to keep that in mind. These aren't normal circumstances. This is not normal, and this is not okay. This is not good. This is just one in a long list of reasons why Trump needs to resign or be impeached immediately. I recognize that's a rhetorical demand, But it's still an important one to make. If you're giving credit to a bunch of Republicans on TV for poo-pooing in strong words, the president openly sympathizing with Nazis and white supremacists, that's not good enough. You have the power to end this. Impeach him. Begin the process. You could do it. You guys could all do it if you wanted to. It only takes a majority vote in the House of Representatives to get the ball rolling. Yeah, so don't give Republicans any credit. But I don't mean to get off track. But if you are a liberal, or even if you just watch online news, the Young Turks are probably the largest. They're not probably the largest. They are the largest online news network on the planet, I believe. At least definitely in the United States. And they're great. I watch them. They're maybe not great, but they're better than the alternative, certainly. Like MSNBC, I guess, would be the next best thing. But, aside from a few shows over there, no thanks. Regardless, though, around election time, there's just a lot of interest in politics. People clicking on their videos, right? There's a lot of fire, still a lot of fire. And so they crowdfunded some money and they hired some reporters. And, I'm not familiar with all the work that they've done. I think a lot of it has been good. I liked a lot of their standing route coverage, but Jordan Sheridan did. Recently, not even recently, it was yesterday, I believe. Might have been the day before. Day before, technically now. It is early in the morning on Saturday on the East Coast here. They did a whole 7-minute, 8-minute long video where they talked about the Department of Justice guidelines for receiving a presidential pardon. And I remember watching that and going, what kind of story, quote unquote, is this? Did they just check up and see what the regulations are and then summarize them and report them? Because Trump's power to pardon comes from the Constitution, and the Constitution doesn't say anything about any of that stuff. And if you think for 5 seconds, Iran-Contra never came up in the video, Nixon's pardon never came up in the video. This is not a thing, right? The president can pardon whoever they want. They don't even have to be convicted of a crime. They can convict them from any potential prosecution, in a broad way. Their pardon power is, it was envisioned as a power of mercy, but it is unrestrained in many, many ways. So if you crowdfunded a reporter and that's what they did with their job in that story, I'm not saying they're worthless and gotta go or nothing, but maybe you guys should put your resources somewhere else. That kind of stuff nobody cares about. Nobody cares about process. So Joe Arpaio, the pardon message was all about the guy's military service, which has no bearing on his criminal conduct. By the way, he was guilty of violating judges' orders as determined that related to his treatment of prisoners in his jail. He's doing some really crazy things, like making them wear pink and live outside, and just treating them like garbage. In ways that violated the Constitution after, that was found by a judge, and he refused to stop, and so he was found in contempt, and now he's a free man. So much for the rule of law, and so much for Joe Arpaio facing any semblance of justice for the way that he's run his law enforcement apparatus down there in Arizona. The guy, I do not have sufficient information in front of me to really talk about in detail specifically how terrible he was, but like I said, making prisoners live outside in deplorable conditions, wearing humiliating uniforms, working them hard, paying them garbage, nothing, favoritism, abuse, what amounts to torture, and a lot of these people, none of them deserve that, okay? Prison is a rehabilitative apparatus that is not supposed to be exclusively punitive. It's more to protect society from prisoners than to punish prisoners. But that's a bit of another story. Hey, you been keeping up with your Mueller? I've been keeping up with my Mueller. It's a bit of a hobby of mine. What's that guy been up to? What's that little judicious groundhog digging away at these days? This is from New York Magazine. A few hours ago, Robert Mueller's probe into Russian electoral interference continues to ramp up. Friday, ABC News reported that the ex-FBI head and special counsel had issued subpoenas seeking testimony from multiple public relations executives tied to ex-Trump campaign head Paul Manafort. So they're going to start leaning on Manafort even harder. Paul Manafort, this was the guy recently whose house was raided by FBI agents. It was thought, I believe, his lawyer and he had put out statements saying that he was cooperating 100% with the investigation into his conduct. And so it was odd that the FBI did a no-knock raid, which they had a warrant for, a judge did issue. They do that usually when they think evidence is in danger of being lost or destroyed, which seems to be a weird thing to worry about if they think he's cooperating. We don't know the answer to these questions, but they're worth asking. In addition to Paul Manafort, the FBI has been leaning super hard on ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, the guy everyone looked sideways at when Trump insisted that he be his national security advisor, made him his national security advisor against all advice, because the guy's past and ties with Russian interests are a bit murky and shady. He's also not that great a manager. He's a pretty unstable guy. If you remember the NPR interview they had with some of his former subordinates, they asked her at the end, how do you feel about Michael Flynn being named as National Security Advisor? She said, when I heard the news, my heart sank. This is a terrible idea. She knew it. She worked for him. I think she's probably right about that. But in spite of all this, Trump wanted to make Michael Flynn his national security advisor really, really badly. Why? Why did he want that? Did he have something going with the Russians? Well, yeah, we know that he has some contacts and relations with them. He's appeared on RT before with them, right? So, we know he's not a complete stranger to the Russian government, certainly. So that's what Mueller has been up to. But, I want to make a point that I don't hear made really at all. Maybe it's being made behind my back or out of my earshot. But if you're waiting for Bob Mueller to tell you Trump's a crook, you're being foolish. You are being foolish. I'm not saying Trump isn't entitled to all the benefits of the Constitution and our legal system. Obviously, you gotta prove everything in court before you can mete out punishment on anyone. Doesn't matter who they are. That should be uncontroversial, but stating it for the record. All that being said, you look at the way the guy's acting, and it is obvious that he's guilty. We know that he fired James Comey because he was trying to obstruct the investigation. If Bob Mueller comes out in public, or Trump finds out what exactly Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn are about to tell Mueller and his team, then he'll fire him, I think. The other option is he might resign. I think impeachment is probably the furthest possibility, but it's the one that needs to happen immediately. Am I the only one who gives a shit about the rules anymore? Like, he's not fit for the job. I'm sorry. Give him a chance, not give him a chance. Think he's a racist, don't think he's a racist. You gotta walk before you can run, and you gotta crawl before you can walk. And we're not even crawling right now. We're face down in the mud as a country because this man's at the top of it. He's got no grasp of the situation. He thinks he can order Department of Defense to do things through his Twitter account. The guy is nuts and unfit for office. That's reason enough to impeach him, right? Okay, but let's say you're a stickler for the law and you really believe that high crimes and misdemeanors means that he breaks some law statute written down somewhere. Okay, fine. I think impeachment's really a political process, so high crimes and misdemeanors means whatever the Congress and 2/3 of the Senate who vote to convict thinks that it means. But in any case, let's say you don't hold yourself to that same standard. You want to wait for a violation of the law. Emoluments clause, anyone? Yes? No? Maybe? Like, this voter integrity commission that he set up, which is an obvious and naked attempt to suppress and intimidate minorities from voting. Like, his seeking of just vast swaths in violation of the Fourth Amendment of information on every single IP address that ever visited an anti-Trump website. You know, this guy's not fit for office, and he has committed crimes. Russia thing aside, he's committed crimes. The Emoluments Clause ain't a freaking joke. No kings, no titles of nobility, and he can't take money from foreign governments. It's right there. And if you think that the Supreme Court is going to hold him accountable, I guarantee you the way that lawsuit against him under the Emoluments Clause ends is the court finding that if Congress wants to do something about it and enforce the Emoluments Clause, it is their prerogative. And that'll be the end of it. Like, the Supreme Court's not going to order him removed or order him to give back all the money. It's just not going to work that way. They're going to find that Congress is culpable here. And Congress is culpable. Every moment they don't impeach this guy, he's culpable. That's why Mueller watching is really more of a hobby. It's really just more of getting down the particulars. And I am interested in what Russia and its cronies and Michael Flynn and Paul Manafort did to hack. Well, not hack. Hacking implies a technological attack, right? You know, people, but really, like, hacking can be social engineering too. Whatever. What they did to influence the election. I am interested in that. I want to get to the bottom of it, and that doesn't make me a crazy Russian fearmonger, regardless of how large your YouTube channel is. But I don't need Bob Mueller to tell me Trump should be impeached, and you shouldn't either. I don't need Bob Mueller to tell me Trump probably belongs in prison, and you shouldn't either. And just a real quick note on the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment is going to be far too unwieldy to use in this scenario because it's designed for presidents that are literally incapacitated, i.e. unable to really communicate with people, but nonetheless clinically alive. If they try to remove him via the 25th Amendment, it's going to require repeated votes in Congress every interval of time that Trump challenges their finding that he's incapacitated or unfit to serve as president of the United States. If they're going to take multiple votes to keep him out of office in some sort of nebulous suspension where he's the president but not the acting president, then they can just impeach him. The 25th Amendment's fun to talk about as a theoretical tool in this case, and it is true that he is mentally unable to perform the duties of President of the United States and should be relieved. But the 25th Amendment, as a mechanism, not going to do it. Impeachment is the way. It's the only way. Impeachment or the threat of impeachment that makes him resign is what needs to happen. And if you're a congressperson and you're not on board with that, you're not pro-peasant. You're not pro-small folk. And I'm not pro-you. So get on board, Democrats. Get on board. Republicans, too. Really. They're the ones enabling him more than anyone else. for all their claims of piety and patriotism, when a whoremongering orange fascist who openly sympathizes with Nazis and clearly has no interest in actually doing the work necessary to run the executive branch of the United States government, don't impeach him? Yeah, well, they're full of shit. So I was thinking to myself, you know what the internet needs? You know what the world really needs? It really needs the ramblings of another white dude's thoughts on racism in America. And so I'm going to give them to you now. Just kidding. Instead, I'm going to read to you a quote from a speech that I'm quite fond of. It's by Fred Hampton. He was a big guy in the Black Panther Party. We gotta face some facts. That the masses are poor. That the masses belong to what you call the lower class. And when I talk about the masses, I'm talking about the white masses. I'm talking about the black masses and the brown masses and the yellow masses too. We've got to face the fact that some people say you fight fire best with fire. But we say you put fire out best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. We say you don't fight capitalism with no black capitalism. You fight capitalism with socialism. We ain't going to fight no reactionary pigs who run up and down the street being reactionary. We're going to organize and dedicate ourselves to revolutionary political power and teach ourselves the specific needs of resisting the power structure, arm ourselves, and we're going to fight reactionary pigs with international proletarian revolution. That's what it has to be. The people have to have the power. It belongs to the people. I couldn't agree more, Chairman Hampton. That's fine words. As this surprisingly progressive Southern gentleman would like to say, that's some good shit right there. When I say things like people are just people and they all want the same things, I don't literally mean that like everyone in the nation and everyone in the world, we all want the same stuff. Because, you know, there are crazy people somewhere, religious fanatics, other places, whatever. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is black, brown, yellow, white, doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your religion. Go to a country, find its peasants. Find its small folk, find its modern day working class. What do they want? What do most of them want anyway? They want enough to eat. They want a safe place to live with a safe community. Probably. Some people are loners. They want to send their kids to school. Right? They want to live in freedom and peace. Most of them. And it doesn't matter if they're from Yemen or Afghanistan or the United States. Or whether they're black in the United States or white in the United States. You know, the peasants all want the same stuff. That's what I mean by people are just people. That's what I mean by that. Solidarity starts with empathy. You have to have empathy before you can experience solidarity. And you know, in this country, it's one of the oldest tricks in the Western Hemisphere in terms of democracy since the Haitian Revolution. Finding a way to keep poor white people and poor black people from finding common cause is the secret to keeping reactionary assholes in power in the United States. And it has been since before there was a United States that trick's been used in the Western Hemisphere. Since democracy's really been a thing, since revolutionary power, really, on behalf of the working class and the peasants and the slaves. Since that's been a thing, that trick has been working. And I just wanted to make that point, the same point that Fred Hampton made, that you don't fight fire with fire, you fight it with water. You don't fight racism with racism, and you don't fight racism with not racism. You fight it with solidarity, and you fight it with anti-racism. It's not enough. I presume that if you're listening to me, you're not a racist. I'm going to take you at your word. Me, white guy. Congratulations. I'm going to take you at your word that you're not racist. it's not enough not to be racist. You need to actively fight racism. And however you can figure out how to do that, some people are not as confrontational as I am. And I understand if there's a power dynamic at work where it's your boss or your parents, something like that. I feel you. I'm willing to give you a pass on that. But just by not participating, you're still culpable. If you have friends or family, coworkers, people that you have influence over because they love you or respect you, and they talk like this, and they think like this, you have a duty, if you're a decent person, to be anti-racist. To have solidarity with those black and brown people, those Muslim people, whoever they're mouthing off about. Think of them. Think of what they want. They want a lot of the same things that you do. Solidarity starts with empathy. Have empathy, have solidarity, and fight racism with anti-racism. Okay, folks, that's all I got for you today. I was your host, Jeff the Dissident Peasant. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffIsDudiness. Dissident Peasant headquarters is still dissidentpeasant.com. Check me out on iTunes. I don't think there are any reviews last I saw. I'll look again here in a second. I'm on SoundCloud now. Dissident Peasant Podcast. Stay distant.
From the country to the town, police and buses held us down. By understand when the ground was laid, pretty tough on union made. Well, then the king woke up one morning, said all the people should be better paid. No! Things were bad, things got changed. Pretty tough on union made. Pretty tough on union made. One long struggle day by day. That's how we got to be this way. Pretty tough on union made. We're still up to live like humans. Locked up, beat man to fame. No one said it was gonna be easy. Pretty tough on union made.
Cows, cringe, and traitors sneer. That last one ever happened here. But don't forget as the future baby. Plenty tough on union made. Well,
Plenty tough on union made. One long struggle day by day. That's how we got to be this way. Plenty tough on union made.